investing when it was $7.85 and doing that consistently over the next 50 years, how wealthy you would be. The fact is, that's exactly what they've done. They began investing 50 years ago and have done so consistently for 5 decades, and as a result, they have built something of great value and worth. 1966, the population of this nation was 195 million. It has mushroomed to 325 million. So we've added 130 million over these last 50 years at the same time as their marriage. They too have added since 1966. Now, family, do not mess with me. This is not necessarily in order, but let's see if I get this right. So they added the favorite child, Laura, and Neil and John, and then were added David and Christy and Deborah. And then here's comes my challenge. Then there was, not in order necessarily, but we got Luke, Anna, Faith, Matthew, Hannah, Cameron, Caleb, Grace, Haley, Maggie. Is that right? Is all 10? All right, that's all 10 of them. I really think that the explosion in population over the last 50 years in the United States, they've contributed about 33% of it, all right? 1966, it was a great year for championship teams. The Green Bay Packers dominated the NFL. The Bill Russell... Are you kidding me? Oh, that's right. We have North. I'm sorry. Yes, your Green Bay Packers did and have continued to do so for 50 years. All right. Bill Russell's Boston Celtics, NBA champions. The Baltimore Orioles swept the Los Angeles Dodgers for their first World Series. There was in far west Texas, this little school by the name of Texas Western, now known as University of Texas at El Paso, beat the mighty Kentucky Wildcats for the NCAA men's basketball championship that year. It was also the same year that God put together a championship team of himself, Stuart, and Karen. And they have been doing this really well ever since. Maybe more than teams or championships, however, this marriage could better be characterized by music. Not only are they musically inclined, they're extremely musically gifted. And 1966 gifted us with some wonderful classics. In 1966, when he first heard it, it's what began and really became kind of his theme song. When the Monkees released and shot to the top of the charts of I'm a Believer, Stuart began singing. When I saw her face, now I'm a believer, not a trace of doubt in my mind. I'm in love, oh, I'm a believer, I couldn't leave her if I tried. Okay, and no, I'm not through. When he wasn't singing along with the Monkees, he was doing that with the Beach Boys as that classic began to rise to the charts and said, I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me excitations. This may need to be edited with this part right here. Now, by definition, yeah, we got kids here. Okay, by definition, excitation is an alter of the condition through an arousal of the mind. Okay, so she aroused things in Stuart that he had never known before. And she totally altered his condition and his world, turning it upside down. But still, the same thing is true of what he did for Karen, because when the Trogs, they're out of the UK, their hit rose to number 1, their hit single. It afforded Karen the opportunity to give to him a nickname, and most of you don't know this, but beginning in October of '66, she began using the pet name for Stuart, in which she said, "Wild thing, you make my heart sing. You make everything groovy." Then she would go on, "Wild thing, I think you move me. I want to know for sure." And so very quickly she was sure. And sometime after that is when he moved her and 3 kids to Hurst, Texas. It was the first month that I came on staff at First Baptist Hurst. In April of 1979, And our then pastor, Dr. Bob Eklund, took me under his wing, kind of showed me the ropes. And the very first visit I made when I came on staff, Bob and I went over to visit this young couple with these 3 kids over on Brown Trail. And truly, as was said earlier, that began a journey in which they became some of the most spiritually influential people in Northeast Tarrant County. I cannot begin to express to you the difference that they've made in this congregation and throughout this community. They have done everything. I don't know how long she'd been here when Karen and Sue Boyd began, they were teaching Spice of Life. And since that time, Karen has taught women's Bible studies for the last 38 years. She, for over a quarter of a century, was the lead accompanist on Sunday morning and still continues to help lead us in worship on many occasions. Karen and I have done literally hundreds of funerals. And it's interesting when I'll maybe reference a song in the middle of a memorial service. It wasn't anything planned, it wasn't anything that was going to be sung. But maybe at the pass by, she will just begin playing that. She had no music, it was never discussed. She just has a brilliant musical mind. Stuart has always sung in the choir. As always, he continues to teach what used to be Sunday school is now Life Connection. Stuart has been an integral part of all of our 2020 vision teams, has led our deacons, currently chairs personnel. He was the chairman of the pastor search team that recommended me to the church 25 years ago, so you can take it up with him, okay? But above all that, they are trusted confidants and dear friends that God has used to impact my life, the life of this congregation and this community beyond measure. And we're better because of it. One more thing about 1966. It was 50 years ago that Pampers created the first disposable diaper. Since that time, young mothers have been eternally grateful. But over the last 5 decades, I'm afraid we as a culture, in many ways, have become very much of a disposable society, especially as it relates to marriage. They're not valued and they don't last like they used to. You know, Good Vibration, but that is obviously not true in this case. Good Vibrations was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. This is the song. I don't know if there is a marriage Hall of Fame, but if there is, I want to be the first to nominate Stu and Karen Essen for that Hall of Fame because of the marriage that they built. For through 5 decades, 50 years, they have, this relationship that has been steady, strong, sure, rock solid. And the two of you model for us what God intended marriage to be. And we're better. So for that, we thank you. And now I want you to join me in congratulating Mr. Wild Thing himself and the one who continues after all these years to give him excitations. 50 years of marriage and still going strong, Stuart and Karen Essen.
What do we say after that? Well, I was just thinking, you might wonder how we met. I was a bum, and he was an Indian princess at a Halloween party. I really felt awful that night, but my friend dressed me up, and he was obviously with another girl, and it was a blind date, and we never went out again, the other one. But anyway, that all changed, and God has been very good to us. And I was just thinking all the places we've been. We moved a lot. My dad was a pastor, so I've lived a number of different places. And the party you saw in Minnesota, we were married in Minnesota 50 years ago. And the girl you saw her over to the side in the navy blue and white. Rita was a bridesmaid in our wedding, and she said when she heard we were coming up to visit Neil and Deborah, we have to give you a party, and she did. And my brothers live up there. You saw one of them. We didn't ask the pastor one to speak, we asked the one that was not a pastor to speak. I think you enjoyed him a lot. So she gave us a party there. So she was my friend since we were in 6th grade, we went to church together. So she's probably my longest time friend, but the friends we have here, you all have been 37, 38 years, such a blessing. From our next door neighbor Sharon, and all of you here. Sue, first lady to visit me, and just so many of you here are such a blessing. And then I'm rather fond of him. And I'm thankful to the Lord. Someone asked what the secret is. You have to be old to be married 50 years. But yet I know some of you have been married longer than that. And it's not something that we can claim. I mean, God gives it to us. It's a gift to be able to live that long. And so I'm thankful for His grace. We are not a perfect family. There is no perfect family. And yet God uses us anyway, and I'm grateful for that. So, here you go.
Oh, one thing.
Oh, yeah. 50 years.
This party would not be here if it hadn't been for Laura. Laura is a blessing, and her family, David and Laura. They put all the pictures together, and Laura has all this food and all the tables and it's wonderful. And then Stuart's sister, Kathy, and her husband came. I said the party, my sister couldn't help us, she's in heaven. And so then Rita did the other, and then Kathy and Chuck came in this week and have helped put things together. But Laura has held it all together. Her brothers just left the country, and so she was she does like to do a party. She said she loves to plan a party, and she did a great job. So you can thank her for all that.
The way things have worked out, I think there's a God-directed opportunity for us and our family throughout this year to come up to this 50th year celebration, 1 week away from the official date. It does take work. There's a lot of joy and gladness and reward for the work that we put into our marriages, regardless of how long you've been married. I think it begins with a God-based foundation of recognizing what's important, using His Word as our guide, knowing what the truth is in our life, making those choices according to that. God blesses. We understand that. And we recognize that that's what He wanted when He created each one of us, and He created marriage. That was what it was to be faithful to God, and He would be faithful to us. And at the same time, we recognize an affection and a love and a caring for your spouse, and that we can do that together and continue to do that. I've always thought that marriage under God's direction was that I needed to pour 100% into Karen. Sometimes people say, well, marriage is a 50-50 deal. Well, not really. If we think and we want to place all that we have, which is 100% of ourselves, into our spouse, we can recognize that, hey, my math says that's twice as good as 50. And that's what we ought to do, is to do that, because that's what pleases God, and He recognizes that and gives us the ability to do just that. But in the 3 opportunities that we've had over the last 4 months, to be together as a family, as these pictures up here, if you've not had a chance to see that, these are the 3 family units of our kids and our grandkids. That was back on July the 4th, when the boys were in town with their families, and we recognized that was going to be the time, who knew when, beyond that, to have all 18 of us together. And God provided that. So these pictures reflect that. It was a great time to be there. Also, to go back up to Minnesota at the end of August. Neil went up there in July just felt like there was a change necessary in his life and for his wife and for his 3 girls. Doggone it. But he recognized that that was God's call.